What is up, guys? This is Hebrew Hammer with A&R Gaming, and I'm back for another AFK Arena video. And today we're going to be talking about 10 pro tips to help you progress fast. Now, these are basically 10 things that I've learned during the progress through my game, and they're things that I wish I knew in hindsight, but, you know, such is life. So I'm going to impart this wisdom onto you guys, and hopefully your game will be a little more streamlined than mine was. So we're going to start off with number 1. And that is force close the app. So this is probably the most important thing that I've found so far that I haven't really seen thrown around very much online. So I think it's important that everyone knows it, just to kind of optimize your performance throughout the game. So whenever you're looking at Peaks of Time and Arcane Labyrinth, these are two game modes where once you start a match, if all of your characters die and you come out of the match, those characters are now gone. You can't use them unless you resurrect them, which of course is a finite resource until the reset. So what you can do is, if you see a match going south, what you're going to do is you're just going to force close right out of the app, and then you're going to start it back up. And that will actually reset all of the errors that you just made in that match, and it'll start it back up as if you never even hit that level. So everyone that died will be back to life and at the health that they were originally at before you hit the level. So I think that's really important, and it can really be used and abused in order to kind of optimize your strategy, your lineup, and all that kind of stuff, just to kind of mess around to figure out what you need to do in order to do the best job possible for that level, because some of them do get very, very difficult. So that is number 1. Do not forget it. Now, number 2, use the RNG. So luckily enough, this is a game that does not use energy as a resource, so we can hit things infinitely. Now, because of that, that puts us in the unique position where if you are stuck on a particular level, you can sit there and try that level hundreds and hundreds of times if you want. Hopefully you won't need that, but there are these natural plateaus within the campaign and the tower that you're going to come across inevitably. But whenever you find that particular lineup that works pretty well and you get down to maybe 1 or 2 bad guys left and you just can't quite take them out, just keep running it over and over and over again. You don't even have to really pay attention. Just keep it on auto, go through, and eventually whenever you look down on your screen, you're going to find that victory sign, because it really just comes down to sometimes you get crappy luck and sometimes you get really great luck. So you just have to wait until that really great luck swings your way and you can squeak by those particular levels, because right after that, usually it's a cakewalk for another couple of levels at least. Now, number 3, buy hero essence every day. So whenever you go to the store, let's go over there right now. Right here, you're going to see this right in the top left corner. You want to buy that every single day, because at the beginning especially, you are going to have a lot of gold coming through. But you are going to be, even at the beginning, you're going to be a little low on hero essence. You're going to find yourself at particular times where you just need more hero essence. But that's especially going to happen later on throughout the game, whenever you go up through the ascension process. And by getting that in now and early, you're really going to help yourself out in the future with just building up a stockpile of it whenever you really don't have something to spend the gold on right now. So that is something very, very important. Number 4, don't buy gear with diamonds. So this is something that I see people do all the time, including some of my friends that started along with me, and it looks very enticing whenever you look there and you're kind of stuck on a particular level and you're like, only if I could get 1 or 2 more items that are just a little bit more powerful, that'll push me through. Don't do it. You don't need to start using, you don't really ever need to start using diamonds for gear, but you certainly don't need to do it until you're around at least mythic level or so. Do not buy purples, do not buy legendaries, just use those diamonds for summons. That's what you really need right now at the beginning game and even the mid game. You need summons more than anything else, because tiering up characters through the ascension process is more important than gear. That gear will come naturally through just doing your AFK farming, through guild events, through regular events, through the labyrinth, the Peaks of Time, everything like that. So there's tons of processes built in to really supply you with the gear you need. Number 5, focus on Saveus early. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that character's name correctly, by the way. But I think this is probably the thing that's going to help you out the most, especially early in mid-game, is this character right here. Now, he is really just going to be able to hold down your team like no other character can from the early game to, I would probably say, the mid game. I know that sounds weird, but the mid game is so long that it really deserves its own early, mid, and end. So this character will really hold it down for you. It's really important to boost him up, and not to mention the Mauler, which is his character type. That faction is particularly good, especially in the late game as well, because Brutus is also a character in that tier. I'm sorry, in that faction, and he is OP from mid-late game, I would say, all the way through late game. So he's eventually gets to be God mode. So it's important to really have this character and start locking him in and locking in that faction. But he's really going to help you out. I promise you, you will not regret this. Next, number 6. Only focus on 1 or 2 factions. I feel like this really helps out a lot because at the beginning, you're kind of overwhelmed. There's so many characters, so many cool characters especially, and you see yourself being beaten by a whole bunch of different factions and particular characters that seem strong. Really, you're going to do yourself a bit of a disservice if you start spreading yourself too thin. If you focus on 1 or 2 factions, because faction bonuses are quite handy, it allows you to pretty much make an A and B team that still will get some kind of faction bonus, at least a 3-person faction bonus, which is very important. So if you focus on really committing yourself to 1 or 2 factions, it'll help out, especially whenever you get things like, let me go ahead and hit over there in the store, I'm sorry, the tavern, whenever you hit these areas where it gives you faction specific pulls, or whenever you get right up here, whenever this bar at the top gets to 100 and you get to pull from a specific faction for an elite, this is a very, very important thing. So make sure that you try to stick to 1 or 2. Personally, I would go ahead and say Maulers and the Graveborn heroes are probably best because Shamara, I know I'm butchering that name as well, I'm sorry. Shamira, I believe it is. Let me find her. There we go. She is incredibly good at DPS late game, so you're definitely going to want her. And an underrated champion, which I know I've mentioned before in some of my videos right here. This guy is actually very good. He basically has 2 lives built in, so if you kind of keep him around, I don't think you'll regret it. So just keep that in mind. I think those are the best 2. Honorable mention, this character right here does a lot of DPS in the mid game, but late game, you don't really use them, so take it with a grain of salt. But this is very important. Next, we're going to go to number 7, Reroll, if you are patient. There's a bit of an asterisk next to that one. So one thing that a lot of people know in gacha games is that sometimes you want to reroll for specific characters because you get a huge influx of whatever the pull currency is at the beginning of the game. This game's no exception to that. You get a lot of diamonds at the beginning of this game. It's going to be a little less than what I experienced just because I did come in during the launch event, but that being said, you still are going to be bombarded with tons of diamonds. There was a time whenever I thought that I should go back and reroll, and I actually regret not doing it because I made probably like 10 pulls. 7 pulls. I actually did a video on it where you get to see my terrible luck, but I wish that I actually would have re-rolled after that because that was probably about 10 days of progress that, if I'm looking back, if I would have got things that were more duplicate focused, I could have tiered up my characters a lot faster, which would have helped me progress a lot more. Instead of that, I ended up getting a lot of characters that were just all across the board, no particularly good elites or anything like that. So if you are a patient person, you might want to think about re-rolling whenever you, probably after like 3-4 days after you pull a couple times and see what you get, okay? Because elites are important and it really helps for the tiering up process that you're gonna need in the mid game. So keep that in mind. If not, it's not a terrible loss. You will still progress because, as I've mentioned before, time is still the biggest bottleneck in this game. So number 8, tanks and healers last. So in my opinion, I found this to be extremely useful whenever you're leveling up your characters, whenever you're deciding who to put all that experience into, I really think that you need to focus more on the DPS, your back line, than the tanks. The tanks will hold themselves down pretty well, especially if you have a few tanks in particular. Like Lucius is a really good one, and the one that I mentioned before, Thorin, he's also very good because they basically are going to be able to hold the line for longer because of passive skills that they have. So it's important to really upgrade that DPS. That way you can knock people out faster, and it really will help you progress much more quickly than you would if you were leveling up tanks and healers more. Oh, and the reasoning for the healers is because those are going to be in the back line anyways, and you should be putting them in a position where they won't be DPS'd that much. And if they are, you need to be trying to move them around in your lineup to figure out a spot where they don't get attacked until later on. Moving on, number 9, shoot for people under you in the arena. So this is a pretty big thing for optimizing your diamond output and your rank in arena. You're going to want to get, obviously, as high of an arena score as possible each day. That way you get as many diamonds as you can consistently. In order to do this, really, you're going to be dropping down if you take a loss. So if you challenge someone that you're not sure about winning against, you're going to end up going down. You're better off challenging someone that is weaker than you, that you know you're going to win against. So it's always better to do that, in my opinion. So whenever you're hitting that challenge area, you can keep refreshing the challenges to find someone just a little bit under you, or if you're really confident, just a little bit over you, but don't go too much above. Try to pick people and teams that you know that you're going to win. Number 10, get friends quick. This is really important because it helps summoning. I should say another cool thing about this game is that friend points actually net you real summons. And by real summons, I mean you can get elites in this summon pool. You know, everything that's available in a normal summon is also available here. So it's very important to get as many friends as possible, so that way you can try to maximize the amount of friend points you get a day. Once you get 100, you can make a pull. You can make a ×10 pull nonetheless. So it's very important to try to do that as quick as possible. Join a guild and invite everyone in your guild. If you really need to, you can probably even, this probably sounds bad, but you can quit out of that guild and find a new guild and then invite everyone in there. Whatever you need to do to fill that friends list up quick. All right, honorable mention tip. I just thought of this. The maximum amount of time that this game will collect AFK rewards is 12 hours. So you do want to make sure that you are picking up your rewards at least every 12 hours. That way there's no overlap where basically you're netting nothing. So try to remember to do that. It's not going to kill you if you go a few hours over or whatever. But if you want to optimize, you want to min-max, that's what you want to do. So without any further ado, guys, that is how you do it. 10 pro tips to help you progress real fast. This is going to streamline your process through the game. Once again, they're things that I wish I knew whenever I first started. I hope that this helped you guys. If there are any other tips that I might have missed, go ahead and put them in the comments, because I would love for other people that are coming and see the video to see it, because I want people to get as good at this game as they possibly can as fast as possible. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me today. So until next time, game on.